while the elderly tailor clapped her hands with joy. "You look like a queen, my dear," the tailor said. Bella smiled nervously. "I still feel like the village girl with dust on her feet." One of the maids held her hand. "You're not just a queen, you're the reason this house feels different now." Tears gathered in Bella's eyes. All her life, she had been treated like a burden. Even when she worked hard, she was never praised. But now she was being lifted, celebrated, honored, not for pretending to be someone else, but just for being herself. Downstairs, the mansion was already filled with guests. Wealthy men in native agbadas and suits, elegant women in fine lace gowns and hats. The scent of roses, jollof rice, and vanilla candles floated in the air. Every corner sparkled. Waiters moved around with drinks on silver trays. Photographers were capturing the moment. A live band played soft music at the corner. Daniel, dressed in a rich cream-colored agbada, stood near the staircase, his eyes fixed on the steps, waiting for her. He hadn't seen her since morning. And the moment she appeared, time stood still. The crowd went silent. Bella slowly came down the stairs, guided gently by the maid of honor. Her veil floated behind her. Her eyes met Daniel's, and she saw something deeper than love. She saw pride, respect, gratitude. When she reached him, Daniel reached for her hand and whispered, "Are you ready, my queen?" Bella nodded with a smile. "With you? Always." The ceremony was held in the estate garden, under a white canopy with roses, gold chairs, and a soft wind blowing through the palm trees. The pastor stood before them and said words that made Bella's chest tighten with emotion. And now, having witnessed the strength of love that started not in riches, but in honesty, "I pronounce you husband and wife." Again. The guests clapped. Music rose. Doves were released. Bella closed her eyes and leaned into Daniel's kiss. For once, she wasn't scared. She was free. After the wedding, Bella was officially introduced as Mrs. Bella Daniel, the wife of one of the most respected billionaires in the city. And the news spread, not in whispers like the village gossip, but in admiration. She must be special, people said. No woman would turn down Junior for a man she thought was poor unless her heart was pure. And she was. Bella's life changed completely. She no longer cooked with firewood under the hot sun, but she didn't forget how. She no longer slept on mats, but she still kept the wrapper she used to fold herself in during her hardest days. She kept it in a box as a reminder of how far she had come. Daniel gave her everything: love, peace, respect, and choice. But Bella didn't become lazy or proud. Instead, she asked him for a simple request. "I want to learn," she said one evening while they sat under the garden tree. "Learn what?" he asked, smiling. "Sewing. I started learning in the village, but I never finished. I want to finish now." Daniel looked at her with admiration. "I'll get you the best teacher in the city." Bella shook her head. "No. I want to start the way I started before. Slowly. From the bottom." Daniel respected that. He arranged for her to quietly attend a local sewing center, not as a billionaire's wife, but as a regular student. She wore simple clothes and carried her own bag. The other learners didn't know who she really was. And she liked it that way. Every evening, she returned home, and Daniel would listen to her talk about the day, what she stitched, where she made mistakes, what she enjoyed most. He encouraged her every step of the way. One afternoon, while she was helping a housemaid fold clothes, Bella heard a familiar voice at the gate. She froze. Then slowly walked toward the front door. Outside the gate stood her stepmother, Mrs. Grace, and her daughter, Clara. They both looked dusty and tired. Clara wore a wrapper tied around her chest, her hair rough, her eyes sunken. Mrs. Grace looked older, her voice weaker. Bella stepped forward, her face calm. "Bella," Mrs. Grace called out. "You've changed, this house, this life." "Yes, Ma," Bella replied softly. We heard you married a rich man," Clara said bitterly. "We didn't believe. But here we are." There was silence. Mrs. Grace dropped to her knees. "I'm sorry, Bella. I know I was wicked to you. I thought I was doing what was best. I thought I was protecting my own daughter." Bella blinked. "By giving me to someone you thought was a beggar." Mrs. Grace looked down in shame. "I regret everything." Daniel stepped beside Bella. "Do you want them to come in?" he asked quietly. Bella thought for a moment, then nodded. "Yes. But not as guests. Let them eat from my table as I once ate from theirs." The two women entered, quiet and humbled. They were offered food, water, and clean clothes. Bella didn't smile much, but she didn't show anger either. She was no longer the orphan they could mistreat. She was now a woman full of grace, wisdom, and strength. That night, Daniel held her close. "You've changed so much," he whispered. "But in the best way." Bella smiled. "No. I'm still me. Just not broken anymore." And they slept peacefully, their hearts beating in harmony. The poor orphan girl who was forced into a marriage she never wanted, had now found the one love she never expected.
Bella was no longer just a wife. She had become a woman with a voice. Weeks passed, and her confidence grew like a strong tree. Though she lived in luxury, she remained humble. The housemaids loved her. The cooks respected her. The guards greeted her warmly, not because she was the madam, but because she treated everyone like family. Daniel watched this transformation every day with pride. "You walk like a woman who owns the sun," he told her one evening. Bella laughed softly. "That's because you gave me light." Daniel smiled, took her hand, and kissed it. "No, Bella. You were light. I just uncovered it." After completing her sewing course, Bella opened a small fashion studio, not inside the mansion, but outside the estate, near the local market. She wanted it to be close to regular people, not the rich. She named it Second Chance Fashion. Her first set of sewing machines were delivered quietly. Bella hired 3 young girls, orphans just like she had once been. Girls who had dropped out of school, girls who were mocked and looked down upon. She taught them with patience, fed them, encouraged them. "You are not useless," she would tell them. "You are not what people say. You are more." And they believed her. Her studio slowly became a haven, not just for tailoring, but for healing. Women came not just to sew, but to talk, to cry, to feel safe. One evening, Daniel surprised her with dinner at a quiet rooftop garden. The city lights twinkled below them, the air smelled of roses, and soft music played in the background. Bella sat across from him, dressed in a simple gown she had made herself. "I'm proud of you," Daniel said, raising a glass of juice. Bella smiled. "You believed in me when no one else did." He nodded. "Because your spirit was louder than your pain. I saw it from the moment you walked into that compound, carrying a water pot, looking defeated, yet still graceful." Bella's eyes watered. "Do you know there were days I prayed for death? Days I sat by the bush behind my stepmother's house and begged God to take me?" Daniel reached across the table and held her hands. "And now look at you. Alive. Free. A light for others." She squeezed his hand. "And I'll never take it for granted." The next morning, news came from the village. Mama Grace, her stepmother, had fallen seriously ill. Daniel noticed the worry on Bella's face. "You can go," he said gently. "Even if she never treated you well, you're not like her." Bella nodded. "She gave me pain. But she also gave me a path. If she hadn't forced me out, I may never have found you." Bella returned to the village with gifts, medicines, food, money, clothes. When the villagers saw her, they were shocked. That same Bella, who had left with a torn bag and tears in her eyes, now returned with drivers, nurses, and elegance. But still, she bowed her head in greetings, helped old women carry their baskets, and smiled with the same humility. Mama Grace was lying on a mat, her eyes yellow, her face thinner than Bella remembered. When she saw Bella, she tried to sit up. "Bella," she whispered. "Don't speak," Bella said softly, kneeling beside her. "Just rest." Bella stayed in the village for 3 days, paying for her stepmother's treatment and even buying new machines for the local women's group. She repaired the leaking roof of the old community hall and gave money to widows. People said, "God truly blesses the heart that remains pure." When Bella returned to the city, she found Daniel waiting by the gate. He pulled her into his arms and whispered, "You did well." "I feel lighter," she replied. "You let go of the pain." "I didn't do it for her," Bella said. "I did it for the little girl I used to be. She needed peace." One weekend, Daniel's company held a grand event, a gala with dignitaries, ambassadors, and top business minds. The hall was bright, the air smelled of expensive perfume and class. Daniel was to be honored as man of integrity and vision. When he was called up to speak, he took the microphone, looked around, then said, "I owe everything I am today to one person, my wife." The hall grew quiet. "She didn't marry me because of this suit," he continued. "She married me when I was wearing bathroom slippers and pretending to be a poor man. She taught me that real love doesn't come from gold. It comes from trust, from standing beside someone when there's nothing." Bella, sitting at the front table, felt her eyes fill with tears. Everyone turned to look at her. Some clapped. Some cried. Daniel finished his speech with, "If you're lucky to find a woman who sees your soul before your money, keep her. Honor her, because that kind of woman is rare." That night, they drove home in silence. Bella placed her head on Daniel's shoulder as he drove. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "Of what?" he asked. "Of the future. Of life." He smiled. "That's because now you have someone walking beside you." And he was right. Through lies, heartbreak, rejection, and shame, she had finally found someone who didn't just marry her, but valued her.
1 year later, Bella stood in front of a large mirror, holding her rounded belly with both hands. Her skin glowed, her smile was soft, and her eyes, oh, those eyes that once held so much pain, now sparkled with peace. She was 8 months pregnant. The house was quiet that morning. Daniel had traveled the day before for a short business trip, and the staff had been given the weekend off. Bella had asked for silence. She wanted to spend the day with herself, remembering the journey, the scars, the miracles. She sat on the edge of the bed, gently rubbing her stomach. "Little one," she whispered. "When you come into this world, I'll tell you my story. I'll tell you how your mother was thrown out like a stray, and how your father picked her up and gave her a throne." She smiled and stood, walking to the nursery they had built together. The walls were painted in soft yellow. The crib stood proudly at the center. Beside it was a rocking chair, handmade by Daniel. She sat down and began to hum an old village lullaby her mother used to sing to her, before the accident, before the darkness. And then she heard the gate open. Footsteps rushed in. "Bella." She turned sharply. Daniel was home, earlier than expected. She stood and ran into his arms. "You're back." He kissed her forehead and touched her stomach. "How's our baby?" "Strong. Kicking like a little warrior." Daniel smiled. Just like his mother. That evening, Daniel and Bella sat under the mango tree in their garden. The same place where he had once asked for her trust. The same place where she once whispered her fears. Daniel held her hand, brushing her fingers gently. "Do you ever regret it? Any part of it?" Bella took a moment. "No," she said slowly. "Not even the pain. Because without it, I wouldn't have grown. I wouldn't have known my strength. I wouldn't have met you." Daniel nodded. "I still remember the day I saw you in the village. You were walking barefoot, carrying firewood on your head. Your eyes were tired, but you walked with pride. That's when I knew you were the one. Bella smiled. And I thought you were just a homeless man with bad slippers. They both laughed. I was afraid, she added softly. Afraid I would be trapped forever. That I would die a nobody. Daniel leaned closer. You're not a nobody. You're everything. To me, to this family, to the girls you're helping, to every orphan who thinks their life is over. Bella's eyes welled up with tears. You know what I want to do? What? He asked. I want to build a center. For girls like me. A place where they can sleep safely. Eat. Learn. Be loved. Daniel's smile widened. Then we'll build it. Together. 2 months later, Bella gave birth to a baby boy. He had Daniel's smile and Bella's eyes. They named him Nathaniel, which means God has given. The birth wasn't easy, but she fought like a lioness. And when she held her son for the first time, she broke down in tears. Tears of joy. Tears of victory. Tears of someone who had walked through fire and come out shining. The grand opening of the Bella Grace Center for Young Girls took place on a sunny Saturday. Hundreds of people came, community leaders, friends, and even old faces from the village. The center had classrooms, sewing rooms, a small clinic, dormitories, and a peaceful garden. On the front gate, written in golden letters, were the words, "Every girl deserves love, dignity, and a second chance." Bella cut the ribbon herself, carrying Nathaniel on her hip. Daniel stood beside her, proud. As the guests entered, the young girls ran out, clean, happy, dressed in uniforms Bella had designed herself. Some of them had once been street hawkers. Some were victims of abuse. But here, they found hope. One of the girls, a small child named Joy, ran up to Bella and hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Mama Bella," she said. Bella knelt and hugged her back, her voice breaking. "No, my darling. Thank God." Years passed. Bella became a name that meant more than beauty. It meant strength, survival, and purpose. She never chased fame, never sought applause. She simply lived her truth, and the world respected her for it. Mama Grace, now older and gentler, moved into a small house Daniel built for her at the edge of the city. Bella visited her often. They didn't talk much about the past anymore. The pain had softened. As for Clara, she found work in the Bella Grace Center as an assistant seamstress. She still had pride in her tone, but it was quieter now. Life had taught her. Junior, Daniel's brother, moved abroad to start afresh. Before he left, he apologized to Bella again, this time sincerely. "I was foolish," he said. "But you taught me what a real woman looks like." Bella forgave him, truly. Because she had learned that forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was strength. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Daniel took Bella back to the village. They stood in front of the old compound where she was once forced out. It was broken now, a roof caved in, walls cracked. Bella looked at it and smiled. "From these ashes, God raised me." Daniel took her hand. "Let's go home." They turned and walked away, not just as husband and wife, but as two souls who had walked through fire, held onto each other, and turned pain into purpose. And behind them, the wind carried Bella's old whisper. "I may be an orphan, but I am not nothing." Now, the world knew she was everything. In a world where many judge by wealth, appearance, and status, Bella chose kindness, humility, and loyalty. And because of that, love found her, in the most unexpected way. Let her story remind us all that you don't need a perfect beginning to have a beautiful ending. That your value is not in your background, but in your heart. And that even when life tries to break you, if you hold on, your light will shine. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring African folktales and emotional journeys. See you in the next story.